All right, we're gonna see exactly why people are freaking about Hassan Piker and why he's being seen as bad for being associated with a lot of Democrat voters. He's been saying some edgy rhetoric that has people wondering what his credibility is. So we're gonna see exactly what this video didn't get a lot of views, but I am curious because there was a small trend popping out, and I want to see what this was about.
Critics calling out the New York Times as reporters nodded along and smiled, while far-left commentator Hassan Piker appeared to justify people carrying out vigilante justice against CEOs. Watch here.
Brian Thompson, as the United Healthcare CEO, was engaging in a tremendous amount of social murder. Virtually every American has a similar experience, a shared experience where they have a loved one that spent their last days instead of spending them with their family, spending it on the phone, talking to their healthcare provider to maybe get a little bit of economic respite.
With me now is Fox News media and political analyst Howard Kurtz and Fox News contributor Ben Domenech. There's a lot more to this podcast as well. And Ben, to some degree, it sounded like the Bolsheviks preparing to come after Tsar Nicholas.
Look, Hassan Piker has become this significant influencer on the left, to the point that major candidates from the Democratic Party are having to answer questions about him, having to decide whether they're going to be on stage with him, be on his podcast, talk to him, etc. From what I can tell, he seems to be spouting the kind of not just horrible, on the moral level, but something that I think is politically an absolutely horrible thing for the Democrats to associate themselves with. He is talking about encouraging murder, encouraging theft, encouraging, taking things away, and he's doing it from this position that, quite frankly, I think, is arguing this to a bunch of people who are going to nod along because they are representing the elite opinion of the New York Times.
And they want to be members of the cool kids.
Exactly, and they want that very much.
He lost me with this America deserved 9/11. That's a deal breaker.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That was the point.
One of many.
Okay, for the first point, CEO getting killed because they force people onto the side of the hospitals because they don't have insurance, or they let people die because they want to make an extra $10 million for the Lamborghini, is objectively going to be the consequence of a lot of people when they realize the people responsible have a name and address. This is the issue with a lot of the consequences of what you think is just making more money, but it's costing human beings their future and their livelihood. That's why a lot of people, when they push people to homelessness, they push people into nothingness, they remember who did it to them, and they're going to get vengeance. This is why it's ridiculous to say that what he said is advocating for violence, because the people who advocate for the violence the most are the ones that are pushing people into poverty. If Hassan Piker pushed someone into poverty himself, I promise you that person would kill him, and that he would understand 100% why they killed him. Because he ruined their life. Do you understand? It would make sense as to why that person would do anything in their power as they went homeless or died, because homelessness here is a death sentence, over a decade long of recovery from a homelessness in order to have a normal life again. I promise you he would understand why they killed him. How do you not understand that talking point? America deserves 9/11. I ignore that so many times because the amount of 9/11 memes I saw growing up next to a military base has brainwashed me to nothingness. I cannot care about 9/11 hard enough. I wanted to enlist when I was a child, and then as I grew up as an adult, I found out that the military was slaughtering people that were innocent and doing it for oil, and now we have a convicted rapist and alleged pedophile in office, and now I don't... What am I supposed to do now? Am I supposed to feel proud? I made sure I couldn't have firearms. I made sure I did everything I can to be anti-gun. And now I'm seen as such a hardcore liberal and anti-war that I don't even care about the military's enlistment at all. I'm anti-draft. I'm anti-military at all. It should be nothing more than an over-hyped jobs program where we only protect our country and don't go overseas for war because we can't afford war anymore. We're starving on these streets and we have homelessness at an all-time high.
things. And to give these crazy town views a platform, I can't fathom what the New York Times had in mind. And even worse is the bromance tone of the whole thing. We're so happy you're here. Thank you for sharing your great intellect with us. Give me a break.
Yeah, but here's what he said about Brian Thompson's murder and the fact that he thought that he could understand why some people were cheering it. Listen here.
Because of the pervasive pain that the private healthcare system had created for the average American, I saw so many people immediately understand why this death had taken place. And that is the reason why I think the reaction to Luigi Mangione, especially by younger generations, was not so negative.
I understand why this death it was a cold-blooded frickin' murder on the streets of New York.
But also, this, if you have problems with the healthcare system today.
The problem with this again is if you're in a society that says death penalty is worth giving to a criminal, then the average American citizen is going to understand that killing somebody is justice. And so if you're pushing an injustice upon the people and you're pushing an unjust law, then you're going to make sure that the people themselves are killing the people responsible and thinking themselves and of enacting sweet justice. Don't you understand? If you enact the idea that you're invading Iran off morality, then you're suddenly going to start to enact the morality principles of warfare against you. People are going to start to put their pieces together and go to war. You have murder as a justified means of justice in this nation. They are going to start killing people as soon as injustice happens. It's a revolution. It's a civil war. It's not mental illness to fight back against a country that has a Second Amendment that tells you you're allowed to kill the tyrant. Just make sure you win the war or you go to jail because you did sedition or tyranny, or not tyranny, it's treason. You have to win the war. Technically, by law, you have permission to kill people and slaughter them in order to enact your will. It is what happened at the founding of this nation through the Declaration of Independence. So if you want to go out there and advocate for killing people through medicine, by robbing them of access to it, by making people homeless, forcing them into homelessness, then those homeless people without medicine are going to realize they're a couple weeks away from death, or death's door is coming soon. They may as well enact the justice upon the people that had put them there.
Complaining about Obamacare. Like, it is actually the policies of the Democratic Party that are currently, in sway when it comes to the healthcare system in America. And for Hassan Piker to go down this road, I find the whole thing disgusting, but I also find it really bothersome that, it's one thing if that's a sideshow. It's one thing if that's something that's going on within the Democratic Party.
Right.
They've got some radical on the edge who's saying something like this. This guy is being mainstreamed over and over and over.
Well, but it wasn't just him. It was Gia Tolentino as well, writer for The New Yorker, who was the woman who was on the right of that podcast.
Okay to steal from Whole Foods.
Well, okay to steal from Whole Foods. Not only that, but saying that she got disappointed that this didn't provoke a bigger move in the Democrats to push for universal health care. Listen to this.
I don't know why I thought that Democrats would immediately take this up as pushing a sort of unified message towards universal health care. I don't know why I expected that. I don't know why I was disappointed that it didn't happen.
I don't know why I was disappointed that the Democrats didn't take up somebody being gunned down in the streets in cold blood and make a push for universal health care.
You're also talking about cool crimes, bank robberies. That's cool, apparently, and that sort of thing. And, what really troubles me here is, look, I want to be clear. He has a big following online. He can say whatever he wants, free speech. I don't have a problem with that. But for the Times with this huge megaphone to shine a spotlight on this just makes no sense. And whatever happened to the slogan, all the news that's fit to print? This is just atrocious judgment. And I was glad to see many Democrats going online saying, we don't want this guy as the symbol of our party.
The other thing is just, I'm sorry, I look at this guy and it's like the thing that sort of made him percolate up outside of his own entity was the fact that he was abusing his dog on an internet stream.
I get this. I get that. Yeah, he was shock collar.
Yeah,
playing the dog.
I get the sense you're not a fan. We got a job, Sandra.
Be sure.
Now, first thing I want to get to, these guys just complained about stealing from a grocery store in a current era where they're cutting food benefits like EBT because you bought a bag of chips. And during an era where they say your skin color and your accent is enough to deport you or check you for legal citizenship. During an era of which they said you need to cut the healthcare so you can go to war with Iran. During an era where we chose a convicted rapist over a woman president. During an era where the KKK and the white supremacist organizations are being validated because they factored out the N-word and don't call themselves the Ku Klux Klan, but they call themselves the Republican Party. You should be ashamed of being associated with anyone who calls themselves a Republican in 2026. I promise you that. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. These people are insane. We're in the middle of a revolution. It's a civil war you can't see yet because they already kill one person a day, according to statistics, with police shooting and killing people of color in impoverished neighborhoods they call rapists, pedophiles, and killers. Meanwhile, they got an elected, convicted rapist. So don't forget, when you fight against this nation, you're not a bad person. If people accuse you or attacked you and call themselves a liberal or leftist, I promise you it's no different than the SPLC funding white supremacy KKK organizations. They're just racist white liberals. They are fascists. They always call people of color tokens for not obeying them like their pets. So remember that. The leftist organizations are filled with white supremacy. Tons of people there. Yeah, I call them Republicans and conservatives a lot of the time because a lot of them speak just like the people they hate, but they try to differentiate themselves because they got their tokens. And they won't call them tokens. They'll say you're racist for saying they're tokens. And it goes back and forth because they're just obviously people who hate hearing the fact that they're supporting a very racist, fascistic system.